Welcome to the Dispense Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Sven Hosford. Dispense Magazine seeks to enhance the conversation between patient and physician about medical cannabis. Whatever you and your doctor might talk about, that's what we'll talk about here on this podcast. On this podcast, we'll hear from Mandi Babkes, a holistic health and nutrition practitioner in Pittsburgh. She has years of experience helping clients with diet, lifestyle, and supplementation changes to bring about optimal health. As you'll hear, she specializes in the ways CBD products can treat many conditions. We'll also talk to Joseph Onesta, a hypnotist in the Pittsburgh area, as he talks about some of the amazing things he's experienced that demonstrate the mind-body connection. This conversation was recorded live as a part of a panel discussion at the Dispense with the Nonsense event held in Pittsburgh on July 14, 2018. First, let's hear from Mandi Babkes, who has worked with CBD products for over 5 years. I asked her to explain the difference between CBD and THC and to talk about some of the conditions she has successfully treated.
Clinically, in my practice, I don't provide medical cannabis. So I've just really used the CBD. So conditions. Yeah, conditions. So, I really do believe that the CBD can benefit most people. I think, dosing and cases, each person is different. I really look at each person as an individual, not a cookie cutter figure. So each person requires something, a different amount. But as far as cases, anything from, I've worked quite a bit with pain management, quite a bit with, the opioid epidemic, which breaks my heart. Can be used for yes, definitely. The CBD really turns on the endocannabinoid system, obviously, but the parasympathetic nervous system. And I really find that it turns on and supports and nourishes the liver and the kidneys, the engines in the body. So, having said that, being that they're the engines that really communicate with various areas of the body, specifically the hormones, the brain hormones, pain receptors, the parasympathetic fight or flight system, I find that the CBD has been incredibly beneficial for trauma work, for fear, for trauma, for post-traumatic stress, for hormone balance, not just reproductive hormones, but also fight or flight, or again, the PTSD aspect. Inflammatory response, it turns on the adrenals and the spleen, so it not only helps with inflammatory response physically, but also emotionally, and then that therefore supports the immune system, the spleen, the thymus, supporting the lymph system, the blood, the vascular system. So again, I look at the body as you do as well, holistically, and I don't go to a symptom, but I really aim to support and turn on the system so that they can work together as, God intended.
Generally, you're not just selling people CBDs alone. It's
no, right.
A mixture of many different tools in the toolbox.
Our toolbox, right. So, we live in a very deficient world. We really cannot receive what we require from food alone. Even if it was organic, farm raised, we are still really deficient, mostly in minerals and the vitamins, but the minerals which allow our bodies to germinate and allow our bodies to absorb that what we need to fight off or fend off. So I really believe that the culprits, the diseases, the autoimmune diseases, everything that is just excessively overwhelming in our world today is the result that we do not have the tools really in our bodies to be able to ward off what is coming our way. There's a lot of toxic exposure in the environment. We can't even go on, medications, food, genetically modified foods, chemicals, radiation. There's a lot of toxic substances, and our bodies just don't know what to do, so they begin to break down, and really they begin to suffocate. And we lack that oxygen, and then our body begins to attack itself because we're slowly dying inside. So, having said that, when I work with an individual, we look to see what each individual needs, and minerals are one. There could be underlying infections. I look at autoimmune diseases as an underlying like nanobacteria, which is so tiny that we wouldn't be able to see it under a microscope. And in order for us to clear that out, we need to use different types of herbs and different types of nutrients, but we also have to, again, turn on the liver and the kidneys and let them communicate and be friends with one another so that they can be supported not only to purge and filter and detox, but also receive the nourishment and the nutrients that they need. So there is where the CBD really comes into play, and it's been a great gift for me. I get like goosebumps when I say it, because it allows me to help people without bombarding with so many different types of herbs or nutrients. It really, and medical cannabis as well, but it really allows me to nourish a body from the inside out, and allow the detoxification and the clearance work to be with more ease. I don't really, and one more thing is that I don't believe in crashing a body. So, we hear often about this idea of healing crisis. Oh, I'm feeling really, really bad, like Herxheimer, and, even with Lyme, or these are all nanobacteria that manifest in our body. The symptoms arise, but this has been manifesting for quite some time. So I find, again, if we're speaking directly with CBD, but also, herbally, we can turn on and nourish those out of the body before these symptoms arise. Because when the symptoms arise, that's when you hear, your death sentence from the guys in the white coats, or you're bombarded with this medication or this one, and it's really based on fear, and that's where the emotional component also comes into play. It's very hard to heal when we're in fight or flight, and when our body is being, broken down because of emotional and energetic trauma and stigma. I mean, even with pain management, it's really scary if you've been on pain management. I've worked with quite a few, and one in particular who's been on pain management since the age of 15. She's 44, 45 now, just because she had, body pain and she was a dancer. So to come off of pain management at 45, not only is it, scary, like, and a breakdown for the physical body, but it is like it is scary, so it's really important to support both the emotional and physical, and not just with CBD, but also with, supporting the body overall. So there are other nutrients and herbs that come into play, if that.
Okay, I'm going to talk about attitude a little bit.
Attitude?
Attitude. Let's take a step back from just the cannabis issue and just talk about holistic health. What is it about the holistic health attitude that makes a difference?
I think we all have the power to heal, and I think we have to believe in it. And so I think that somebody needs to make the decision that they are willing to believe, and also willing to do the work to get to that point. I think it's important to have a partner or, a team with you that really, holds your hand and helps you and even guides you along to get to that point. But nobody will heal if they're not willing to make the decision to do it and to do the work also. And I think that's where a lot of the affirmative and emotional work comes into play. There's something to really be said about, affirming and believing and allowing our energy field to adopt that belief. But it's, I mean, I think we have to believe, and we have to want to do the work, because it's not easy work. Anytime somebody comes to me and says, well, I was given 6 months, I mean, that's what makes me tear up, because nobody has the right to tell anybody how long they have to live, what they're going to do, but that crashes somebody. And so in those cases, it's important to, you have to be empathetic and compassionate, and just give them hope, and then, they'll have that hope, and then they'll do the work.
Do you have that?
Oh, there was a question.
Oh, please.
What does optimal health?
So
Whoa,
the question
that's a
is,
good
what does
question.
optimal health look like from a holistic perspective?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think homeostasis really is a big part of it. So homeostasis, making, within the body, physically, emotionally, nutritionally. But I think, I think that, each of us is different. So the idea, the picture of health is not the cookie cutter either. But optimal health, I think, happiness is really important. I think I really do believe that working on our emotional layers is one of the most important aspects of healing, because if we do not, we will not heal. And that's not just what we feel and we know on the outside, but that's also even delving into some of those layers of our subconscious and unconscious that we have pushed down and pushed down and pushed down because they've been so scary that they're still there, So I think having the team and the embrace and courage and strength to do that, and then to nourish and support the body, and I think the belief that you're not alone and you can heal is. As far as, is it like eating this we could get into that. Yeah, I think it's important to, ward and steer clear of a lot of chemicals and a lot of toxicity. I think it's important to, eat a balanced diet. I think it's important to support your body with some nutrients that will assist your body to be able to assimilate and digest and do all of those. I think sleep is important. I think movement is important, And ultimately, I think it's important to, have a team that helps you individually with what your body needs.
We'll get right back with more of our panel discussion right after we give thanks to our sponsors for this event. Cresco Yeltrah was Pennsylvania's first operational grower-processor with dispensaries in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the Strip District in Pittsburgh. Solevo Wellness, Pittsburgh's first operational dispensary. The Healing Center, Washington, Pennsylvania's first operational dispensary. Holistic Health with Mandi, the practice of Mandi Babkes, a board-certified holistic and nutritional practitioner. Glass Gone Wow, southwestern Pennsylvania's premier source for all the accessories needed to consume medical cannabis. And Medical Cannabis Solutions, providing patient services in 3 locations in the Pittsburgh area. Now back to the Dispense with the Nonsense panel discussion. Next, we'll hear from Joseph Onesta, one of the most interesting hypnotists I've ever met. First, I asked him if hypnosis was a demonstration of the mind-body connection.
I absolutely agree with that, because that's the whole purpose of hypnosis, is to sort of coordinate the connection between the mind and the body. And so long in traditional medicine, we focus on the body, and then we've had the psychiatrists and the psychologists who focus on the mind, and they didn't seem to get along. The psychiatrists, of course, are the ones that write those wonderful prescriptions for antidepressants and anti-anxiety medicine. And now, your regular doctor will do it too. And if they come to me for these things like anxiety or depression, and I ask, well, how did they diagnose this? It's like, well, he just gave me this pill. And it's like, there's no test. So on the good side of that, I do have counselors and psychiatrists who will call me and say, can you work with this person? It's kind of amazing that. It's like a big shift happening, because my profession is still sort of borderline hokum to most people. But can you work with this person because the medications aren't working? And it's like, that's great. That's really, yes, absolutely, send them. So in 1995, everybody I knew was dying of AIDS, and I left my full-time teaching position to go and work at a place called AIDS Project Los Angeles. And my program was really sweet. It was social, educational, recreational, basically all volunteer services for people who had nothing else to do. They needed something. And at the very beginning of medical marijuana at the time, it was mostly for giving people the munchies because they were wasting away, and the only medicine they had at the time, AZT, was killing everybody. They came out with a cocktail later. But I had 2 volunteers in my program. One, a man named Timothy Trujillo, who did a lot of work. He taught self-hypnosis classes to my clients. I honestly thought it was kind of hokum myself. They would just go into self-hypnosis and imagine little Pac-Man eating their viruses, and then their viral loads went down. They came to me, I was the director of the program. They said, my viral load went down. Of course, it wasn't scientific. I mean, there was no double blind. But gosh, you have 20 clients who say, all of them that say that their viral loads went down. You kind of say, well, at least it's helping in some way. I don't know exactly what it's doing. And then we had another one named Frances. Her last name just flew out of my head. She was one-on-one. And my clients would walk out of there and say, my gosh, that woman is a shaman. She was kind of amazing. But I saw my clients who, at that point, 1995, it was a 2-year death sentence. If you were diagnosed with AIDS, you had a 2-year death sentence. And I watched these two people, along with, the chiropractor who bought a table and moved it into my center, and, all of the volunteers that I had. But I saw these two people change the lives of thousands. I had 2,000 clients in my program. I saw them change, and I thought, this is some amazing stuff. So that's how I got started.
What kind of conditions do you generally treat? What do people mostly come to you for?
I like the second way of phrasing it than the first, because I don't treat conditions. Even somebody who comes to me, for example, to quit smoking, there's something behind that smoking. I like that, going upstream. There's a reason why that person is smoking. So for whatever reason they come. Mostly, I have a lot of clients who come to me because of stress, tension, anxiety, depression, chronic pain. And I can't tell you how many people sit in my chair and say to me, you're my last hope. First of all, that breaks my heart for 2 reasons. One, it's a huge pressure on me. It's like, okay, I'm your last hope. But also, this person has been through the ringer, and it's been needless. No one is addressing all the aspects of what's happening. I'm sorry, I'm okay? Okay. So did I answer that question?
I think you did.
Good.
You did. What's the most amazing turnaround or healing that you've seen out of a hypnosis session?
I can't. There are some occasions where, at the end of the session, I'm astounded. Just even at the end of the session. The most recent one was a young girl who lived in constant anxiety over literally every aspect of her life, and this is a miracle to me. I wouldn't expect this to happen. At the end of one session, she called me up and she said, "I'm fine. I don't." And it's like, "Are you sure? Do you want to come in and just no, I'm really good. That's great. That's really wonderful." And of course, she has run around telling everybody that I'm a miracle worker. I'm not. The magic doesn't. I'm a guy with a toolbox that understands how the unconscious mind functions. The unconscious mind it manages everything that you do automatically. Everything you think, everything you say, everything you feel, everything you react to automatically. It's been working on this plan for you since the moment you were born, and it just takes in information. So you could go to a therapist, and I love therapists. You could go to them for sometimes 5 years, and all of the information is being filtered through the conscious mind. So the client is sitting there thinking, "Oh, this is, this is bull," or yeah, what about this and what about that? And with hypnosis, we sort of take that conscious mind and let it have a little bit of a rest. Take away the filter. So we're giving information to the unconscious mind, which is in charge literally of every automatic function in your life, every one of them, including those endocrine systems and neurological systems, chronic pain, for example, and trying to educate it to understand something in a different way. Pain has a purpose, for example. And that purpose is important. If you damage some tissue, you sprain your ankle, you need to rest that tissue. But if you have chronic pain and the doctor has said to you, well, you'll just have to learn to live with this. Well, you don't have to experience that as pain. Your body is it's not useful. That pain is not useful. And so we can take the pain away. We can have your unconscious mind. It takes a little work. I mean, it's not magic. Like, I can't snap my fingers and have you, turn to, some super person. But honestly, it's how you see it. It's what you think, how you react to it. And if we can change those automatic reactions, everything from I need a cigarette to I'm never going to be happy again, or I'm going to be in pain until I'm dead. If we can change those automatic thoughts, you experience things in a different way. And, by the way, the science of epigenetics, this is kind of amazing stuff. You can actually change the way your body, this is like the biology side of it, you can change the way your body reacts to those things. So you're no longer creating the cause. Look, we see this with psoriasis, and which is an inflammatory disease. But we see this, your body stops making all of those extra cells. It's kind of amazing.
Anyone have a question? Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what it looks like when you see a client or a patient. Like, how often would they see you typically? Obviously, not everyone's like this, like a miracle session. Can you give us an idea of what that looks like?
So let me just repeat the question. So the question is, what does it look like? How often do they come? And what is the schedule? And that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm a fairly unusual hypnotist, although it's a new wave of hypnosis. I spend the first session about 2 hours with the client. The first hour or so is getting to understand how they're experiencing what they're experiencing and how that is. The second session, the second half, is all about seeing how they react to the hypnosis itself. Generally, most people require 3 to 5 sessions. Those sessions in my practice are a week to 2 apart, no more than 2, no less than 1. There's always homework. That person has to buy into the change that they are making. I'm a guy with a toolbox, so there's homework. And if they come in and they haven't done their homework, and sometimes it's fairly simple stuff, basic mindfulness practice, which doesn't have to be hard. Like, you think mindfulness, I don't know if you know mindfulness, but people think, oh, meditation is so hard. This is baby stuff. It's real easy. And if they're not willing to do it, I just say, well, you realize that, we've lost a week. You haven't done your homework. So we'll move on, but we're adding on to the end of this, the package. You decide when you're done. And so 3 to 5 sessions. It doesn't matter what it is. I do have some clients, some weight loss clients that go beyond that because they want to lose 400 pounds. I have other clients who go, social anxiety is a tricky one. But when we go into social anxiety, the anxiety is over, but now they don't have the skills to be social. So it becomes skill building rather than the anxiety. The anxiety is done. It's like, what do I say? So those are the clients that go beyond 5 for the most part. Yeah.
So what's the physiological difference between meditation versus fitness?
What's the physiological difference between meditation and fitness?
In meditation, your mind is actively going in a certain direction and creating a certain thing. If you're a skilled meditator, you can actually slow down your heart rate and, do all sorts of things. Hypnosis sort of skips that step of being in charge, the client being in charge, and allows the hypnotist to guide it. So I use a lot of storytelling, a lot of metaphor, which is the way we teach children, by the way. I use a lot of that. When we're in hypnosis, then the client, physiologically, they're sitting in my chair. They may be snoring because their body is in absolute relaxation. They are responding to everything that I say, sometimes with a simple nod, sometimes vocally. They can verbally respond if I tell them to. And we're engaged in a kind of conversation. It's just that they're no longer filtering it the way they did before. And to achieve that in meditation, there's a lot of instruction that goes with that too. Simple mindfulness is really simple. It's very easy. Doesn't require much brain power at all. If you move on in it, you might need that.
We've heard a lot about the placebo effect. Is there any correlation or is there any relationship? Because I loved your description about hypnosis and how you're talking to the unconscious. Is there any connection with the placebo effect and hypnosis any time?
If there's a connection, I will admit that as a hypnotist, one time I was working with a little girl who was experiencing pain, inexplicable pain. She was just a small child. And they kept trying other medications, and nothing was working for this little girl. She was in constant pain. And she was in such pain that she could not respond directly to hypnosis. Hypnosis can be induced in a number of ways, but the only way I could have gotten her into hypnosis was fairly rough, and I wasn't about to do that. So I just took her mother aside and I said, tell her we finally found the one that will work, and give her a Tums, have her chew it, and tell me how that goes. Just tell her that. Don't say we're going to try this. Avoid that sentence. But hypnosis, a lot of people think hypnosis is placebo. It is not. It is working with your mind, although that's what placebo does too. It's wonderful to know that even in terms of placebos, people who know that it's a placebo, it still works. So, who can really explain that? There's a book called Cure by Joe Marchant that is a wonderful exploration of placebo. So I can't prescribe, I can't diagnose, I'm not allowed to do any of that, my scope of practice. But telling a child to eat a Tums is not the worst thing in the world. And the mother was completely flabbergasted. No medications were working for this child. And she seems to have been quite happy with that. So, if that's the way it works, that's the way it works. But hypnosis is not really a placebo. We are working directly. I'm equipping you, my client, with skills, techniques, and a new way of experiencing what you experience so that it's no longer what you thought it was. And your unconscious mind is extremely powerful, extremely strong, and it's telling you how to experience things all the time. Anytime you're driving and you get angry and you flip someone the bird, that's your unconscious mind sort of pushing your buttons saying, hey, hey, hey. And so there are people who drive around quite happily without, it's a silly example, but they drive around quite happily without flipping anybody off. And even in the worst traffic situations, why can't we be one of them and be so less stressed out?
World itself, do you guys believe that there is value within those?
Are there benefits to psychedelic, to
to
other psychedelic?
Beyond just the mind-body connection things.
No, I guess to me, I think it is the mind-body connection.
Right.
I actually would like to respond to that. Psychedelics are used traditionally and historically in traditional medicine, but they're always done under the supervision of someone who knows what they're doing. So when I was growing up, everybody was like tuning into LSD and having some really bad trips and ending up with flashbacks and all sorts of things. And just understanding how the unconscious mind works, I don't think I would want to do that unless I was working with a shaman or someone who knew what that, you're going to do ayahuasca. You better have someone who knows what that means and has seen that and done that. Just doing it on your own, peyote or anything like that could end up, could be harmful. In hypnosis, we use a technique called regression. And there's very little that I could do to harm anyone. Honestly, it's almost impossible. Almost. But if you have PTSD and we use regression, I could be re-traumatizing you. So I need to be careful about that. And so a shaman or someone who's experienced in those psychedelics, I think there's value in them. People talk about being enlightened and opened up and experiencing the world in a new way. That's great. I think, if we just accept the world the way we see it concretely, that sucks. Excuse my language, but it's like the world can be a pretty sad place. But if you can open your mind to see things in other ways, then you can experience it in a different way. But I would really caution the use of that flippantly and without supervision. That's just me.
That will do it for this edition of the Dispense Magazine podcast. Join us again next time for more conversation about medical cannabis. I'm your host, Sven Hosford. Thanks for listening. This podcast is a production of Mindful Medicine, LLC.